And welcome into KC Sports Night. It's a Monday here. Jared Koller rocking with the rock star of the sports department, Marleah Campbell here. Man, we've got, as she's proving right there, she's rocking and rolling. No, we're excited because, Marleah, this is a pretty jam-packed KC Sports Night. We're going to start with the breaking news for the Chiefs, then kind of pivot to the Royals, and then we'll finish with the Chiefs to kind of take you around the map because I think there's a ton to talk about today. So buckle in for an hour-long stream coming up. But no, all right, Marleah, let's start with the news that Harrison Butker is now the highest-paid kicker in the NFL as the Chiefs hand out an extension today. Your instant reaction?
Yeah, well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding with what he's been able to do for this team, right? Hungry? I immediately, my mind goes to Super Bowl 57 with the game winner there. The streaks he was able to break this season, the length. I mean, he really has nearly every record in the Chiefs history book. So, it's a great deal for the Chiefs, keeping the best kicker in the NFL around for a long time. And as we've seen these last couple seasons, most of the Chiefs games have been coming down to, one or two possessions. So Butker has been the difference. What game was it where he scored all of the points? It was like 18.
Bengals, I want to say.
Yeah. So, he's been super steady for the last couple of years. So good move for the Chiefs and good move for Chiefs Kingdom. And good move for Harrison Butker, who represented himself on that deal.
Right. In the his playoff career, I think, is what earned him. Because it's one thing to be good in the regular season, but as we saw at Buffalo last year, remember Tyler Bass was a decent field goal kicker, and he missed it when it counted. But Butker's 32 of his last 35 in the postseason, including 6 of 7 from 50-plus yards.
Yeah.
And every opportunity that he has had to kick with the team's season on the line,
he's nailed it.
He has come through.
Yep.
He's yet to fail, which I hope Chiefs Kingdom doesn't take for granted. It started in that very first AFC Championship game that Mahomes played, and they lost to the Patriots. But you remember Butker kicked the field goal to send that to overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it again against the Bengals in that loss, did it again the next year against the Bengals to send them to the Super Bowl. Marleah, he had the longest field goal in Super Bowl history.
Yep.
This past year, he missed, I believe, only 2 kicks all year. And
I was sitting next to you at the Super Bowl watching that. It was anxiety-riddling.
Yeah, as we were watching on a 2-inch TV in silence, even though the field was right by us. Very interesting experience there.
Yeah.
But how valuable do you think Harrison Butker is? Because I feel like we take it for granted, or is it, hey, no, a kicker is a kicker?
Well, I think we know what it's like via, I guess, proxy, looking at our friends on different fan bases to not have a reliable kicker and how that feels. I think, kind of like, the offensive line, I think about it. If you're not mentioning their name that much, that means they're doing their job very well. Butker just is kind of an old reliable these last couple of years. The only blip in the radar I guess you could point to would be the beginning of not this past season, but the one before. And that was because, remember, he sprained his ankle and took a little bit to get back.
Well, and the holds. Remember, that was a big storyline with Tommy Townsend not being able to hold the ball when he took over for Dustin Colquitt.
Yep.
And that kind of cost him. But, yeah, he's the second most accurate field goal kicker field goal percentage-wise in NFL history. I don't know if I don't know if Royals fans realize that expecting a bullpen of HDH caliber, Kelvin Herrera, Wade Davis, and Greg Holland, is that's not a fair expectation. Okay,
right.
Most bullpens have guys that blow saves, not at the rate the Royals have of late, but still, closers blow a save a couple times a year. That's normal. Kickers in the NFL miss kicks.
Yeah.
That's the expectation, yet here in Kansas City, Butker doesn't.
The bar is high. It's assumed every time.
And he's one of only 9 players, I believe, 8 or 9 players that have been here for all 3 Super Bowl rings, or that have won all 3. And that number goes down this coming year because Blake Bell's not back and Nick Allegretti's not back. Yep. So he's part of this. Marleah, when we think of this Chiefs dynasty, this Chiefs core, I think Harrison Butker, speaking on his on-field performance here, he's right there amongst the most important.
It doesn't happen
figures.
without him. I mean, you look at either the game itself, Eagles, or the games leading up to it. Butker has had a key role.
That's true. I didn't even mention the Eagles game-winning Super Bowl kick as well. All right, we will come back to the Chiefs because Marleah was out at training camp this morning, and she's got some takes. Watch out, folks.
Buckle in, round two.
That's where we're putting at the end. What take will Marleah have from Chiefs practice? You're going to have
hot.
to,
that's my take.
You're going to have to stick around. But no, pivoting to the Royals because Marleah, I just got back from the K 20 minutes ago, as you can as you were witnessing. I feel like it's to the point where I think it's maybe disrespectful to say, oh, I just think it's great that we're talking about the Royals in August. Like, oh, Chiefs season is here and the Royals are still relevant. How cute. I think that was a storyline earlier on, but I don't want to hear that anymore because, Marleah, I didn't even realize this, and I'm constantly looking at Royals stats. The last 41 years of Royals baseball, all right? A little bit older than you and I.
Yeah,
okay?
I was going to say. So
41
both of us
years.
were negative how many years?
Dating back to after the 1982 season.
Yep.
Okay, a lot of baseball. At this point in the season, 113 games in, only one Royals team has a better record than your 2024 Kansas City Royals. And that is the 2015 World Series champion Royals. Every other team has the same, like the 1985 Royals, guess what? They had the same record as the current 2024 Royals. The 1994 Royals, who had that great season that was ended by the strike, same record. But only one team has gotten off to a better start at this point in the calendar than the 24 Royals. And so, Marleah, it's no longer just a little cool story.
Yeah.
This team is one of the best Royals teams in a while.
Which is... So I totally agree with your first sentiment. I will add the little asterisk of the sense that it is just every time I wrap my head around 106 losses last year to what we're seeing this year, and the fact that I think we were kind of building toward this. You know, last season it was a quote unquote, what was it, an evaluation year, a rebuilding year. I think with the young kind of steeple of talent right there, I thought maybe in 5 years, 5 years or so, we'd start to see that steady increase. It just happened like overnight. I mean, it's how quickly it happened, one, is what I think makes this storyline something we keep kind of harping over. And two, as you and I have mentioned on the show a lot, having been Kansas City Royals fans our entire lives, like truly to be talking about this team right now is exciting. But it's, they're relevant and they've, it's, I think the first quarter of the season or so, we were like, okay, how long is this going to hang on? We're well past that.
That
41-year mark stat is pretty unbelievable.
I didn't realize it was because 63 and 50 isn't like, that's not a 100-win pace. But a lot of those teams, like the 14 Royals, they were 48 and 50. That was their low water mark, and they finished really strong. And a lot of those good teams in the 90s were around the same record. The Royals did hold a playoff spot in August in 2017, but not at this level. So, and the reason the record is so great, Marleah, is because they had about as good of a week as you could hope for. They go 6-1 on the road, whereas a lot of people are saying, "Oh, they can't win on the road."
It was a low point, the first part of the season.
They struggled, but they sweep the White Sox. They win 3 out of 4 in Detroit. They kind of split the weekend games where they should have won on Saturday and they probably shouldn't have won on Sunday. So I think that's kind of a wash there. Sunday being the game, MJ Melendez hit a game-winning 3-run home run with 2 outs in the 9th inning.
Yeah. Well, and he had that grand slam earlier in the season
against
in almost
the Dodgers,
the exact same situation. Yeah, that's a big confidence boost for him and a guy that's kind of had a up and down year. Yeah,
and so that continues the trend, Marleah, of Melendez has 13 home runs this year. 10 have come in the 6th inning or later.
Yep.
So that's crunch time. He's performing, and 5 of those have either tied the game or given the Royals the lead. Because this is his 2nd home run this year when the Royals were down to their last out.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't know how you dealt with pressure as an athlete, but when I come to the plate with down to the last out in like my softball game, I'm like, don't screw this up.
Yeah, sand volleyball these days now, and if I'm serving on the last point, I'm like, guys, this is a wash.
I know.
Melendez, when I mentioned that grand slam, what was it, 2 or 3 months ago, that was his 12th pitch of the at-bat, too.
Yes.
I mean, he's just come up really, really clutch.
Yeah, so that's where if you look at his body of work as a whole, I think it's not telling the whole story that lends itself to potentially a stronger postseason when you have guys that their heart rate doesn't get as high as Marleah and I's maybe doing those crunch times, that he's able to say, 2 outs, my team's down to, like, it comes down to me.
This feels like a good time to insert an anecdote of the Super Bowl of 2024. Jared and I were watching the game in kind of the tunnel that leads out to the field. So we were literally like 15 yards away from the field, but we're watching it on this tiny little TV screen that's maybe this big with a dozen other media members.
That was silent. There was no audio.
No audio, so you could kind of hear the roar of the crowd first, but you didn't know which side of the crowd it was. And poor Jared is on his knees. I was like, I'm going to check on you later.
I was probably like most people watching this that were like, oh my God. No, that was crazy. And Marleah, if we get into similar games with the Royals, guess what?
We do not handle pressure well here.
Same. I mean, I was a mess even watching because Marleah and I watched the playoff games at Buffalo together. Marleah was in Baltimore for that game. But we watched the Bills game together, and I was also not well. I just care. I care so much, and I want it so bad for this city. Royals included. So credit Melendez for being able to come through in the clutch. But it's not just him. Marleah, that is not a typo. On that road trip, the Royals played 7 games. Yeah. They scored 30 runs in the 7th inning or later.
Unbelievable.
What?
I mean, yeah. I'm not very good at math. 4 and change, 4.25. Yeah.
That's not normal.
No.
Yes, there's a degree of flukiness. They're not going to have that this week, but I think it goes to show that in crunch time, these guys don't wilt, which is how the 2014 and 15 Royals were, but they had a little bit more big game experience. As you said, a year ago, none of these guys had played in any big games. The biggest games in most of these guys' careers, with the exception of Salvador Perez pretty much, is happening right now. Yeah. It's this series, and so that's their ability to perform under pressure late in games. I do not think we should overlook. They're going to have another opportunity to start tonight.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. We talk about that 2015 team a lot. There's these intangibles that make teams, and by no means am I necessarily comparing these teams 1-1, but there's this intangible quality that good teams in any sport have, and one of them is, A, playing your best whatever, basketball, baseball, football, on the back half of the season. You need to be climbing towards the end. And 2, being able to deliver in clutch situations, which the Royals have done time and time again. So there's kind of that mindset that, playoff caliber teams have. This team has it. Last year's did not.
Yeah, at least not to the last month or two. They did have some nice finishes there, but not to the frequency. That's the thing. I think every team, even bad teams, will have some comeback wins, but this team hasn't more than most.
It's the consistency over the course of the year.
And so that's where if you want to argue, say, hey, Jared, they're just getting lucky and come playoff time, that if you get shut out for 7 innings, or in Sunday's case, they were shut out for the first 8 2/3 innings before they scored a run. I agree. You don't want to put yourself in that situation constantly. But for today on August 5th, I think it's a positive sign heading into a big series. Red Sox at the K tonight against the Royals. First pitch 7:10. James Paxton against Brady Singer. Singer pitched not even a month ago at Fenway against these Red Sox, so they see him again. It's a big game, Marleah, because Kansas City leads Boston by 2.5 games for the last wild card playoff spot.
Yeah, went 1-2 against them up in Boston.
Could have won the Sunday game. Somebody Garrett Hampson got thrown out at third, and he was the game-tying run in the 9th, and so they didn't finish that game. But Marleah, this is the biggest series of the year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, this is the time of year where you're playing your game and checking your phone afterwards to see kind of where your competitors that you're close to did. This time, the ball's in your hand. I mean, the ball's in your court. You can take care of business right now and continue to grow that gap heading into mid-August here. So I would call it the biggest series of the year. And, get down to the K if you're not already.
Yeah,
watch this and then leave.
Because I think the wild card is more reasonable right now than the division. They're still, given that they still have a number of games against Cleveland, I'm not ruling out the division, but that's more of a longer shot than when Marleah, if the season ended today or tomorrow, regardless of what happens in the series, the Royals are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so that's where if you can get 2 out of 3 against Boston and push that to 3.5 games, keep in mind the Red Sox are in that tough AL East, so their schedule, I think it's about the same, but it's definitely not any easier.
Yeah.
This is, so as you said, hopefully it's a good crowd. I think we'll have a good crowd on Friday and Saturday for the Cardinals, but especially because it's not going to be as hot when the sun goes down, Hopefully Royals fans support these guys because they feel the energy.
You were in the clubhouse today. What were the guys saying? Were they excited?
They're excited to see me. They're saying, Jared, boy, it's great to have you here. No, I mean, Vinny Pasquantino echoed those thoughts, saying that, I haven't had that long of a career, but, this is the most fun I've had. This is the most excited I've been for a series. And he said this is a big series. So, whereas Will Smith, who's been has won the last couple World Series, kind of downplayed a little bit. It's like, the games don't really pack that punch until September, so you get a mixed bag there. Matt Quatraro talked about how this team is really inspiring. And keep in mind, it's still his second season as manager. Marleah, a great segue, though, to one of the guys I talked to for a decent amount today, Lucas Erceg. Irsay, excuse me. You see his name on the screen there. It kind of hard. I gotta say it a few times. He was a trade. Right. Yeah. He was just traded over here from Oakland. And you see the 3 arms are what I put on the screen there. Those are the 3 deadline additions for the Royals in their stats. Irsay was dominant in his first 2 1/3 inning. No hits, 3 strikeouts. Lorenzen had his first start. And actually, that should say 1 run. That is a typo. Jared, mistake. Just 1 run and didn't come until the 6th inning in his first start. However, Hunter Harvey's been the one that's really struggled. Marleah, 5 2/3 innings out of the bullpen, 12 base runners. It's actually remarkable. He's only given up 4 runs, given that he's had 8 hits and 4 walks. And he blew the game on Saturday. Came in, the Royals were up 3-1, and he left the 9th, and it was 3-3. So your first impressions of this, now that we've had a week since the trade deadline, we've seen him in a series. These are important arms. What do you make of these new additions for this playoff push?
Yeah, I mean, I think collectively you would not mark it down as a win. You and I talked last week about kind of the trade value in terms of who left and who you get in, and just kind of the timing of it all and who you need right now. Oh, that was weird.
There's a ghost.
Again, mark it down as a win. Excited to see these guys kind of in the back stretch of this season here, because we got 2 really, really important months coming up here. But again, net win, net loss, you call it a net win.
Yeah, also should mention Paul DeYoung did hit a 2-run home run on Saturday as well, so credit him. And I'm kind of going off the cuff here, Marleah, but I think when we talk about these additions in before I get to my larger point, would you have done more at the trade deadline? Seeing that Hunter Harvey's kind of struggled, the bullpen, James MacArthur is looking like a liability, the offense some inconsistent. Would you have done more to go all in, or would you have done less, saying, hey, I don't think this is a team that can win the World Series, don't give up talent? Now that you kind of have at least a little bit to work off, where are you at on if you were GM of the Royals?
Yeah, again, I'll stick with I think you found the sweet spot. I mean, I think you kind of found that you weren't too conservative, but you splurged a little bit. I think the front office definitely earned some trust over the course of the last offseason.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I like the moves. I'm curious where you're at with this, though.
Well, so the reason I bring that up is because I think you have to think, we look at it just the major league team, right? But I think you have to look at the lens of the organization as a whole, because that's what GM Jared Koller is doing. He's looking at those guys in A-ball and AA and thinking, do we have the horses to where we can give up somebody to get someone greater and still be okay in the future?
Yeah.
So the Royals news of the day, Jack Caglione, Marleah. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah,
he's going to start in high A.
Yeah.
And he signed a week ago. He's not going to make it to the bigs this year, but I wouldn't rule out him potentially coming on late next year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something we've not seen this Royals team do since Brandon Finnegan, probably, where you're just skipping levels. So I think he's the number 1 prospect. But again, and I'm not looking at this so if I leave someone out, don't sue me. This is just off the top of the head. You've got Blake Mitchell, the first-round draft pick catcher. I think he's got a lot of potential there, but he's a catcher out of high school. I think he's a few years away. Carter Jensen, another catcher in the system from Park Hill here in Kansas City. A lot of pop, a lot of power, gets on base, does have some swing and miss. I question the position he's going to play, but those are 2 catchers. You also have Salvador Perez and Freddie Fermin, so I think you start to wonder, okay, Marleah, do you trade from a position of strength if you have 4 quality catchers, or knowing that Salvador Perez is going to play for another 10 years, maybe you don't want to do that. But I think you've arguably 2 of your best prospects are catchers, so you keep that in mind. Then you look at your arms. I think that's the weak spot, because Frank Mazzucato, the top draft pick, 7th overall in 2021, he's kind of struggled this year after showing signs of life last year. Ben Kudrna, the Blue Valley Southwest sandwich pick in that same year, has actually surpassed him now into AA. He was in the futures game. But I don't think he's all that close. And so you trade Mason Barnett. I mean, you still have Blake Walters was their second pitcher taken last year after Blake Mitchell. A couple Blakes. I don't know if that has anything. I just don't know if I see the depth in this farm system that would have allowed them to trade for more, to go and get a dude that's a closer. Shout out Jerome Tang.
Right, a Jerome Tang dude, not just a dude.
If you wanted a elite closer, you would have had to give up probably a couple of those guys, because none of those guys that I mentioned, other than Blake Mitchell, who's like fringe top 100, none of those are like Jack Caglione.
Yeah.
And you can't trade Jack Caglione because he was just drafted. So I think that goes into the conversation. So big picture with the Royals and that organization, everything I just spewed, what are your thoughts?
So collectively, you're happy with the moves, right? You think they found that sweet spot?
Yeah. Yes.
Or would you have been more assertive?
I mean, I would have liked to acquire a shutdown closer because I think that could cost them. But I just don't know if it would have been smart to do that and give up 3 of your top 5 guys.
Yeah. Well, and I think right now the front office really likes kind of the future they're building right now. So do you really want to sacrifice that this year when you're happy-ish with the guys that you have? I guess time will tell, right?
Yeah. So that's where I would caution Royals fans to second guess if it's like, because listen, they blew a game on James MacArthur has blown. They've won. Rough. The Royals have won 15 of their last 22. In 2 of those losses, they've had a lead in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
So, but it's not as easy as go trade for a closer. There's consequences that come with that. So that's why I take the risk. All right, going back to training camp, Marleah, we'll wrap up on the defending Super Bowl champs. Anything of note, doesn't have to be from today, of recent training camp practice that you've seen as the Chiefs enter their first game week of the 2024 regular season?
Yeah, a little bit of day of news. I mean, Kadarius Toney back today. He was injured, I think, last Wednesday, went down with an ankle injury. And Coach Reid honestly sounded like a little frustrated in that post-practice press conference. And he was saying, missing practice right now, and specifically regards to asked about Toney, missing practice right now is huge. You want to be out there every day, especially when we're putting in installs. So hopefully he gets back as quick as he can. So we came back today. I am very, very curious. We got 22 days until this roster is cut from 91 to 53. Last year, the Chiefs kept 7 receivers for the first time in the Andy Reid era. I don't think they're going to do that this year. I think they're going to stick with 6. The only reason I could see that changing is because you keep a receiver, a Kadarius Toney maybe for punt returns or anything like that. But right now, the locks are Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Justin Watson. In my eyes, I think those are hard locks.
Okay.
That leaves, I think, 2, optimistically 3 positions left. You have Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Nico Remigio, who's had a great camp, right. McCole Hardman, veteran guy, I don't know, scored the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, and Justin Ross. That's 5 guys fighting for 2, maybe 3 spots.
That's why I think they're going to keep 7.
I think even then, though, who do you cut? I mean, I guess Ross and Remigio would be the first 2 to go. But
I think Remigio right now is more on the team than Hardman or Ross, probably.
It's hard to see where. So Ross would be the one that, out of that group, I think he's 5 of 5. I think if we have Justin Ross cut, I won't be super surprised. But when you get that, fine, let's go to that group before then. Toney, Moore, Remigio, Hardman. Pick 1 or 2, because again, if they pick 6, 2 of those names are gone. If they go with 7, 1 of them's gone.
No, that's tough. I mean, how much of the factor, or how do you factor in Kadarius Toney potential as a 3rd-string running back?
Yeah.
Does that make it easier to keep him?
They've played around with that too. However, I'll add Isaiah Pacheco as your number 1. They've slotted in Deneric Prince at number 2 a lot at camp. And then what about Clyde Edwards-Helaire? So do you keep those 3 guys? So
you don't have a fullback on the roster, though, whereas in past years that would take up a roster spot. So they at times have kept 4 running backs in the past.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a way to have Toney as your 7th.
For your 7th.
Yeah, kind of 4th and 7th guy.
Hard to say. Okay. And Kadarius Toney has been really polarizing, I think, with this team in the sense of he is so athletic, he is capable of making really good plays, but he just hasn't gotten on the same page of the offense as a whole, with Mahomes specifically. And we've seen a lot of mistakes, and he's been very injury prone. I mean, he was spent 19 of the last 21 weeks of last season on the injury list, went down with an ankle a couple days into camp this season. So I'm curious where the wide receiver battle goes. As far as the left tackle battle, which is kind of the other position we've been talking a lot about all camp, I think Kingsley Sua-Mataea has it on lock. I think Wanya Morris will kind of slide in and be kind of that extra guy that slips in there maybe throughout injuries and that kind of thing, or rotates for the 2nd string position. But I think that position that we've been talking about for a long time is 80 to 90% locked. But again, these preseason games are huge because for the first time, you're finally not going against each other every single day. You got some other competition. So these are reps that really, really matter. I think the preseason is different than training camp in the sense that you can make up a lot more ground in a preseason game than you can in one training camp practice. You know, it's one thing to have a good couple practices, but if you can make a name for yourself,
When 90 other guys are out there, you're going up against someone different. The pressure is more. The lights are shining brighter. So I think we'll get our first test for some of those, position battles.
Well, and it'll be interesting, too, because Sky Moore hasn't had a great camp. Nico Remigio really has. So, do you potentially trade Sky Moore away? There's just a lot in flux.
Yeah, I don't know what trade value he would necessarily have.
That would be him playing well in these next couple preseason games.
But no, that's a good point. If someone does play well, you could theoretically trade. Again, but other teams know the roster crunch as well, and they think, hey, you're not going to keep all these guys. Why would I trade you a 7th-round pick if I know you're going to cut someone?
Yeah.
But either way, if it becomes like a bidding war or something, so no, it's important games.
Yeah, bottom half of the wide receiver room is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And Carson Wentz has looked great. That's another, I guess, silver lining of this training camp, bringing in a former All-Pro to back up Patrick Mahomes.
We'll see his first
QB2 in 3 years, but we'll see him on Saturday.
Yeah. So I think that'll be, and we don't have. Last year we kind of had Shane Buechele versus Blaine Gabbert. We had a bit of a backup quarterback battle with some people even predicting Shane Buechele is going to be the starting the backup quarterback, and then he ended up getting. Not even the backup quarterback, just getting flat out released. So we don't have that intrigue this year, but still a lot of
and I'll add one more note. I think it's going to be a big couple games for Felix Anudike-Uzomah.
I think he's arguably top of the list.
To
see that development.
Yeah. This is just massive. Even Steve Spagnuolo said he kind of had a rough start to camp. He's picked things up along the way. This is where it's time to prove that he's that guy and that he's stepped up. And I keep saying, I have one more thing to add. Cornerback battle. That is also super in flux. I would compare that to the wide receiver room in terms of you have maybe one or you definitely have one. You have Trent McDuffie at the top. Maybe number 2 and 3 are semi-locked. But that rotation kind of in the back half is really fluid right now at camp.
Yeah. Okay, Marleah has one more. No,
every
not one
position,
more thing.
Okay, let's see what else. Linebacker room.
You're looking back to actually Javier Vaz, who's a Royals minor league prospect that I'm really excited about. No, it's an exciting time for the Chiefs and for the Royals, and college football season almost here. Sporting in action tonight, current in action tomorrow. A lot going on here in Kansas City.
You joked at the beginning of this. We could have kept this going on for an hour.
No.
But we have something at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
6 o'clock news.
Yeah, no, I think I turn into a pumpkin at 6 o'clock. So, but the good news is.
No one wants to be around for that.
Right, yeah, but I revert back to human form Saturday night at 10:30 when we will have live Chiefs preseason post-game analysis with Marleah Campbell and the grandpa of the sports department, Neil Jones.
It's going to be so fun.
Will be joining us live Saturday night where we will show you all the best highlights from the preseason opener in Jacksonville, post-game sound, statistics, and analysis. So be sure to join us Saturday night. But good news is you don't have to wait until Saturday because we'll be right back here tomorrow morning with live Chiefs press conference coverage. Steve Spagnuolo takes the mic. Marleah will be there. I will be here breaking it down for you in the morning. And then we're talking about all the top Kansas City sports storylines. Same time, same place. Tomorrow night at 5:30. So thanks for hanging out on this Monday. Exciting week ahead. With that, James Shields salutes. And all right, pumpkin time.